let's go through the playoffs, Brett, because we have let's just run through the quarterfinals as they stand.
Much to talk about it, but
yeah, you don't want to talk about this.
There's not much to talk about.
All right, well, let's talk about it anyhow.
Straightforward all the way through.
Yeah, I mean, Houston, Philly, very straight through. I guess my point with the Houston-Philly game was it just was so classical Houston going back to, everything they've done over a number of years. But as we both mentioned, you know what? Philadelphia played like a panicked bunch of spazzes.
Chickens with their heads cut off.
Yeah, I mean, it was just sad, especially when Freddie comes in. And listen, sad thing for Freddie, of course, he can't even start in MLS, and that's not to be
consistently at least.
It's
not
not
get some starts here and there.
It's not meant to be mean to Freddie. That the fact is that he just doesn't seem to fit in anywhere he goes, except for so far Second Division Turkey. And I can tell you, Second Division Turkey does not match up to even the MLS. And now maybe we know why, because he was out there and he made some pretty good crosses while he was on the field. But in the end, it was just Houston. They just know what they're doing.
What Freddie brings to the table is not per se consistent play overall. I mean, there are certainly games where he can be consistent. There are definitely games where he's inconsistent. However, what he does bring is that one moment that might spark, an opportunity, a goal, or something that's just works out to be magical. And whether or not you want to take that chance playing him a full 90, or if you want to bring him off the bench a la Benfica did, and just hope that it magically happens. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But no, I agree with you completely. This is typical Houston. Yeah. I mean, I always said it. A lot of it is just they're a blue collar, keep it simple, stupid type team. They possess the ball. They make the correct passes. They don't try to do too much of the ticky-tacky type football. I mean, or soccer. They keep it real simple.
Yeah.
And it's very effective with the squad that they have.
Yeah.
And they showed it. They limited Philly to slim to nil chance.
Well,
and I wasn't thinking that Houston was gonna drop the game. I never thought of it.
And I don't know who made this point. Maybe it was Harks, but I mean, Philly. How many times, and this is even after bringing in the subs, yet Philly continued to bash the ball upfield for the last 30 minutes of the game. 30 minutes is plenty of time to score a couple goals. Why don't you pass the ball upfield on the ground? But you can't expect Sebastian Leteau, as great as Leteau has been this season, to suddenly become the guy who's going to take the ball down off his chest after you've bashed it 50 yards upfield high in the air. It was just spastic. It was horrible. And then I just wanted to mention Adu did have a shot, but he turned it into a shass, which is what Harks called it, I think, which was somewhere between a shot and a pass. A shass. It wasn't a shot. It wasn't a pass. It was a shass. Yeah.
Well, I'll definitely dive into Harks here in a bit, but
and when Mwanga came out, then they expected Leteau to take all the duties as far as taking balls out of the air, and there's just no way Leteau is going to be able to do what Mwanga does. He's not going to jump up there, take a ball off his chest, and distribute. Not when he's got all these center backs, and Leteau's a skinny guy. He's not built like Mwanga. Mwanga's like a tank, right? So you can't expect Leteau to do that. So it was this bashing the ball upfield, as we mentioned before, just spastic.
Yeah, it was. They were down 2-1 at the beginning of the game, and they felt the need to just push and push and push and push and push to try to catch it back up. And the problem was that they kept giving the ball up.
Yeah,
and that's not the way to win games.
It's easy to give the ball up when you're just bashing it upfield.
Yeah.
And
while we're on Harks, let's make this transition now.
Sure.
Harks, my favorite Harks line playoffs so far has been on the Real Salt Lake Seattle game when a free kick came in and Montero could have had an easy tap in, but he ended up placing it wide. And he said, "That's pretty much Willy Wonka." And I was sitting there like, oh my god, did he just say that? That was awesome.
Willy
'Cause
Wonka.
he ended up expanding on it, but he's referring to the fact that Montero was given a golden ticket and he didn't capitalize.
I
And I'm
see.
just like, that was mind blowing. That was awesome. I mean,
Willy Wonka, yeah.
I give him a lot of crap as far as the commentator from time to time, but that was amazing.
That's almost our good friend from Kansas City. That's almost in that realm. Well, while we're at it, why don't we just take on the Philly-Seattle series? Because you know what,
Seattle, Real Salt Lake, Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. God, I'm getting up all kinds of ways tonight. So yeah, RSL versus Seattle. It reminded me a lot of the Kansas City, Colorado. You can almost wrap these two in the same package because you go down the line for Seattle and for Colorado, and it comes down to this: health, injuries. When you're Seattle and you're missing Fernandez and then eventually Brad Evans, and these guys started dropping like, well, as Harks put it, dropping like fries. I know he meant flies, but he said fries. And maybe if you're in McDonald's, that makes sense. But dropping like flies, and they were. Rosales was already gone. Evans was out, and first half. Fernandez was out first half, and you had to put in guys like Nagel, who they're hot and cold. A guy like Nagel, he can either do something or he's going to completely blow it. And then why they didn't play Freeberg and Facito in Game 1 and allowed themselves to get down 3-0 in the first place, that's a whole nother story. But the plain fact of the matter is, for Seattle, this game comes all, and this is classic, Brett, and you know it too. It all comes down to who's healthy playoff time comes. And simply put enough, Seattle and Colorado are just not deep enough to withstand losing 3 or 4 players. Just can't do it.
Well, and we'll definitely expand on that with the Colorado-Kansas City match. But, yeah, it was the same situation as far as injuries. I thought that it was a very entertaining match so long as you weren't a Salt Lake fan. I mean...
Yeah, that was ugly.
Have you ever seen a team sit on a 3-goal lead as badly as Salt Lake tried to do?
Yeah, they laid an egg.
That is not their game. That is not their style of play.
No, they would never play that
completely.
way. Yeah.
Oh my god, that was terrible.
It was. It was bad.
But,
even with Borchers and Olave out, I mean, they had their injuries too. But Wingert, I mean, he did a fabulous job back there for being pummeled all game long.
All game long. Well, it was all game long until they brought Luis Gil in. And at that point, for some odd reason, once they brought him in, they figured out, hey, the score is 3-2. Maybe we should have some form of offensive presence in mind. Make them get on their heels a bit.
He was a ball chaser.
It a little bit.
He was a ball chaser, I thought.
Oh, huh?
He had energy. That's what Gil brought. He brought energy, and he was a ball chaser. He chased things down. And,
Well, I liked Gil's game in that. Honestly, I've liked him as what he's done over the course of the season. He's become quite an integral part of Salt Lake's game plan. And he brought energy onto the field. I made the comment on a Facebook group during the game that I didn't see Will Johnson in the opponent's half all match until Gil finally got in there. And once it was, Real Salt Lake had any opportunities whatsoever because you had basically what they did. They threw 10 players, counting the goalkeeper, in their half.
Yeah.
And threw a Spindola up there and said, "Hey, try to create something out of nothing."
It was the most, It was the most incompetent. Yeah.
I thought, I've always liked Jason. I always liked his style of play. But man, if Salt Lake came out and actually played their game, I don't think there would have been much of a match.
Yeah. And then we talk about Kansas City, Colorado. I mean, it's the same situation there. If you're Colorado, you're missing Camorra, you're missing Drew Moore, and Mastriani, and Connor Casey.
A lot of players who are consistent starters. They were missing almost an entire lineup.
Yeah.
It was that bad.
It was bad. It was really bad.
It showed big time.
It did. And, I mean, they looked really like a USL team, frankly. I thought they looked horrible. The weather didn't help. It was ugly. Pickens.
They couldn't string a couple. They couldn't string more than 3 passes together before either lobbing it forward or losing possession.
Right.
It was not pretty.
And Pickens made a few errors, not coming out aggressively enough, and then his Lemmy Motorhead mustache. Woo, that didn't help either. That was a classic. Yeah, they just got killed, and then Collins backwards header probably wouldn't have went in. I think you mentioned this during the game if Drew Moore was in that center back position.
Drew Moore was in there because both their goals came off of free kicks.
That's right.
If Drew Moore was in there, he might not have like the presence in the air that Colorado was really missing, and it showed.
Yeah,
it really did.
It did.
I mean, like I said, the injuries that Colorado endured over the course of the year and in the playoffs and everything, it was just too much. I mean, you're relying on your bench, who's pretty much been playing bit parts throughout the season / reserve games.
Yeah,
it's a lot to ask.
It is. Let's do LA versus New York because, yeah, I mean, you come out of game 1 with Marquez being a complete idiot loser, throwing the ball at a player after the game is over. Like, you wouldn't expect anything more classy out of Marquez, I guess. And then his total Goldilocks fall to the ground and melodramatic, oh, I got hit in the head. I mean, the guy deserved his multiple game ban.
2-game suspension on top of his red card, yeah.
You know, and I have been very supportive of Marquez since he's come to the MLS. I've tried to be nice to him, but then he went out of his way to be a total turd. And, you know, now I can't support him because he was classless in this. And I don't think, you know, I thought L.A. losing Juninho was going to be really bad for L.A., but they managed to pull it off anyhow, you know, regardless. And I just want to say one other thing to close it out. Beckham, hey, the guy got knocked down. Maybe this is a little melodrama, too. He asked for the smelling salts, man. They jammed him up his nose. He shook his head. He got the cobwebs out and went out and played a spectacular game, just like he's been playing all season long for L.A., period.
Well, jumping on the Marquez thing, man, what a tool. All that can be said about that. No, I mean, if you look at the suspensions for that little incident, you'd imagine that L.A. would have felt it a lot more.
Yeah.
That was a massive blow to lose him.
It seemed like it.
But they pulled through. Not that I got to watch it. The game started at like 11:30, and I was out by halftime.
You passed out, man.
God. Well, did I fall asleep or did I pass out?
I'm not sure, but
No, it was such a late game here on the East Coast. You know,
yeah. My wife was hating it.
Man, I definitely hate those West Coast matches. I really do, but it was just one of those situations that, if I hadn't worked such a long day, went to go see the Jay Demerit movie, which I do advise people to go see.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
It was a great, great film. Although there were certainly some editing aspects that left you wondering a bit.
Yeah.
But regardless.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm glad that LA won. In this situation, I felt the better team obviously won.
Yeah, Supporters Shield. They
deserve to move on
right.
from a team that was struggling to make the playoffs.
And Dan Loney mentioned if LA lost this, it would be their own fault. And they were the far superior team. And McGee has been a beast in the playoffs. Beckham has been a beast in the playoffs. Donovan, here and there. He hasn't really come back from his injury yet. He's looking kind of... I mean, he had a better second half, but not so great. I wasn't too impressed by him. The one thing, God, when Rogers got the yellow at the beginning of the game, it took them forever to tell us why. The coverage, it was like, come on. It was like 5 minutes later they told us why Rogers got the yellow. You know, and then they showed the instant replay.